Panama has some leverage against the United States. There's something called the Darien Gap. This is a large stretch of jungle between Colombia and Panama. And for the hundreds of thousands of migrants who are heading up through South America, they have to go through the Darien Gap.
We're going to go a very long way away now because we're going to talk about the Panama Canal. President-elect Trump has repeatedly threatened to take control of the canal. Panama, which owns and operates it, say they will not relent to the incoming president's demands. Let's speak to Tim Marshall, who's author and former foreign correspondent. Hi there, Tim.
Hello, good evening.
Now, I didn't realise until recently that this canal was actually built by the Americans and controlled by them for a number of years before it was handed over to Panama, wasn't it?
Yeah, the French were building it, and then the company ran out of money about 1906. So the Americans took it on and opened it in 1914 and profited from it right through till the year 2000, when, because of a treaty in the 1970s, they agreed to relinquish it. And since then, all the monies go to Panama, which you can make a strong argument for. So what's going on here is Trump putting the geography back into geopolitics. There's two aspects to it. One is security. That's what he meant when he said, I don't want it falling into the wrong hands. He didn't say China. That's what he means. Two of the ports are actually operated by Hong Kong-based companies. But the other thing he said is that we're paying too high prices for the getting through the transit fees. So this is a shot across the bows ahead of next year's potential trade war. If he does put significant tariffs on Chinese goods, and he says he will, well, that will mean higher prices for American consumers who get those Chinese goods and buy them in the shops. They'll be more expensive. So to offset that, to try to make sure the prices don't rise so much, big if, he could negotiate getting the ships through for cheaper to the United States, that could offset the prices. So this is a shot across the bows.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps some people don't quite know just how important the Panama Canal is to world trade. It basically stops ships from having to go all the way around the coast of South America, and therefore has significant cost implications for the transit of goods around the world.
Well, it's 13,000 miles. If you want to go from the east coast of the United States through to the west coast or onto the Pacific, 13,000 extra miles. As you say, lots of costs and several weeks. So it was a revolutionary moment in human history, the opening of the canal.
And now a global infrastructure asset, which whoever's got control of has significant leverage. So we've seen this tweet with Trump raising the American flag above the Panama Canal, obviously provocative. To what extent is this negotiations, saber-rattling, or could we see things deteriorate to the extent where America goes down what may end up being a regrettable route?
Given who it is that we're dealing with, yes, you can't rule that out. And you might remember the American troops actually landed in Panama, late 70s, was it? When Mariel Noriega, the president, who was also interested in drugs, shall we say, and they removed him. So, it's not without precedent, although it seems pretty far-fetched. And also, remember, Panama has some leverage against the United States. There's something called the Darien Gap. This is a large stretch of jungle between Colombia and Panama. And for the hundreds of thousands of migrants who are heading up through South America, they have to go through the Darien Gap in order to get to Mexico and then to the United States. So already, the United States pays Panama to fly migrants that make it as far as Panama back to their home countries. And Panama can say, we will close this Darien Gap for you. It can cooperate with the United States by withdrawing flags, because a lot of ships are Panamanian flagged from particular companies, or shall we say countries, that the USA doesn't like. So I don't think the United States is about to, and they would have to do it militarily, is about to invade Panama and take over the canal. But I do think there's going to be an almighty row with Panama, and the Trump administration will try to get it to bend to its will. But the real backdrop to this is the potential for this coming trade war next year.
And how much influence does China have in this ongoing spat? You mentioned that they own two ports very nearby, and obviously
Yeah.
a lot of the products that are made in the world come from China and go through that canal as a result. How are they being active in this sphere?
If we go back to 2017, Panama was wooed by Beijing and it decided it would cut ties with Taiwan, no longer recognize it as an independent country, and it would recognize Beijing. And since then, the trade has flowed towards Panama, which is very beneficial, of course. As I said, the two Hong Kong-based companies operate two of the ports, and next year, negotiations will open between Panama and China for a special trade deal. So again, Mr. Trump obviously knows all of this. And without going into too much detail, if you go all the way back to the 1820s, there's something called the Monroe Doctrine, which basically was America saying to the rest of the world, keep out of our backyard. The Monroe Doctrine still holds. And so as China advances into Latin America, America is beginning to now push back. It probably won't get out of hand, but you have to see this in the sort of big picture over the next decade of the Chinese-American economic battle that is going on everywhere, including the ports, the canals, and the infrastructure of the world.
Tim, thank you so much, as ever, for your insight. Just before you go, I'm sorry to spring this on you, but we're asking about favourite Christmas TV moments, as we are part of the official wind down before Christmas here on Times Radio Drive. We've had one text come in from Paul who says the best Christmas sketch he saw was the Morecambe and Wise Christmas special in 1971 with Andre Previn. Obviously, we've got Wallace and Gromit returning, and we've got Gavin and Stacey coming back this year. Is there something that you remember as a Christmas TV moment, or something that you and your family sit down and always watch every year that means Christmas telly to you?
King's Speech, and I don't mean the film.
No.
Those of us of a certain age would actually concur with your listener about the Morecambe and Wise show, but you know that just dates us. But for younger listeners, that was the immortal line when Eric Morecambe was told he was playing the wrong tune of some great classical music. He said, "No, I'm playing all the right notes, not necessarily in the right order."
It was a lovely moment. And you're right about the King's Speech. We sat down as a family to watch King Charles do his first one last year, and it's going to be very interesting to see what he has to say from the hospital chapel that he's going to be broadcasting from. Tim, thank you very much indeed for your time.